Okay, folks, as you can see, I have Jeff Tadlock with me today. And the video that we're going to be recording here is called The Mysteries of Life. And we've already been chatting a bit, and there's limited time on Jeff's end. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Jeff, start rehashing some of the things we were just talking about, and we'll go from there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were talking about I get caught up in the religious circle, but I really enjoy the mysteries in this world and the mysteries of existence, like the questions such as why is there something rather than nothing? That in itself, that one particular statement continually blows my mind, and it's never stopped blowing my mind. And it starts from there. Why do we even exist at all? And it goes all the way up the ladder of mysteries to things like what you're talking about, Antarctica, and the history of Earth, and there's a lot of fascinating things you could draw up. Like I'm fascinated by red blood cells and soft tissue being found in dinosaur bones and these kinds of things. That boggles my mind. I'm like, what the heck? I'm not a religious person, but still I recognize the mysterious things. They're all around us. It's like, what is going on?
Well, you're like I am. You were trying to connect with God from earliest childhood, as I was.
That's true.
My parents gave me to God before I was even conceived, before they got married. They said, God, you can have our firstborn. And they told me that when I was 18, but it was already up. Anyway, we've both been explorers and are questioning many things. So
definitely, I'm definitely that.
Yes, and we've both been wounded by our expectations, you might say, our own expectations and disappointments. So anyway, what you were going into Antarctica? That you said there's fascinating things there. What have you?
I drew off of you talking about Antarctica before we went live, and I don't know. I've only heard about it, so I would have to throw that question back at you. What makes it fascinating to you? Because I know that it is a source of fascination with a lot of people. I just haven't been involved in that. I am very curious. I have heard that it's a mysterious place.
They've sent people there from around the world, and apparently they have uncovered under the ice evidence of civilizations and it's warm. The ice is like a barrier of our atmosphere, but it's a barrier of ice. But underneath that, it's not frozen. Now, is that true? Well, there's been a lot of people go down there, and there's been a lot of reports that have leaked out. And of course, Admiral Byrd was one of the ones that went down there. And after he died, a bunch of stuff came out from his family that revealed some trips through the center of the Earth. And
so there's one thing that bothers me, that is, there's when I almost feel like we're getting into maybe conspiracy theory, which is fascinating. I love it. I like it. I jump into that race whenever I can. But as far as this Antarctica thing goes, this is a new one for me. I'm very interested, but I always think, why would people hide this? What's the reason for? I mean, conspiracy theories are always built around this concept that the government's hiding it from us, or a huge group of people that are in the know are hiding it from us, such as the moon landings, or everything,
civilizations on the dark side.
Everything that is a conspiracy, there's always this idea that people are hiding it from us. And my immediate thought is, if there is what you say, if we've discovered a civilization under the ice sheets of Antarctica, that would just hit the headline news, and we'd all be like, oh, wow, cool. what would be the point of hiding it?
Well, perhaps, and this is again, it's a conjecture.
Mhm.
Perhaps the interaction with whatever is there is such that they feel it would so upset the apple cart of the reality, of the false reality that they've been promoting and creating for perhaps thousands of years, not just hundreds.
Okay.
And it would just blow
Yeah,
people's minds, because
that's very conspiratorial, though.
it would blow out of the water all of the stories we've been told, both on our religion and our politics and our monetary system, and virtually all of the systems that are interconnected that
Yeah.
we call world governance, if you will.
So would that like sit very cozy with the flat earthers and how the moon and all of this stuff all ties into this big lie?
You know, the flat earthers are interesting. I when I first heard about that, I took my globe down. You can see I've got a globe behind me that shows
Mm-hmm.
Australia there and that
Mm-hmm.
part of the world, because I've been in Australia. That's the one place I've been outside of the U.S., other than the
Okay.
islands in the Atlantic off the coast of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And the people. Well, that's like I lost my train of thought. I hate it when that happens, but it does happen to me.
Okay. Well, you were talking about how you have the flat earthers. You have
Oh
a
yeah, the
globe back there.
flat
You've
earthers. It's
taken
like
it
a
down.
religion to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they expect you to buy it hook, line, and sinker. And I looked at it, and I says, wait a minute. I remember that man and his teenage son, who one summer sailed from Norway to the North Pole, and ironically, they went through the Earth and were shipwrecked coming out the other end, and they actually talked to people that were bigger than us, another, like Antarctica, perhaps another part of civilization, maybe the same civilization, I don't know. Uh,
Weird.
but I remembered that, and I thought, wait a minute. How could they sail in at the North Pole, be shipwrecked down by Antarctica? The father died, the son survived. They rescued him. They put him in an insane asylum because he was talking about sailing through the middle of the earth and telling about his experience. But he finally got out. He moved to California, and he ended up living to be 80-something years old, if I recall right. And
Yeah.
but never changed his story. It was firsthand experience. And no matter what they tried to convince him of, that he was nuts, he
Yeah.
held on to his story throughout all of those years.
Well, I would have to, for me, I would have to like make a choice. Either he was crazy or it did happen. Which is more likely? And so, I mean, you kind of have to. You can stay on the fence if you like, but I think my barometer leans toward, well, he's probably kind of nuts, or had some weird psychological experience on LSD or something. I don't know.
Well, I
Who
don't know
knows?
that any drugs were involved, but
But I don't know. So are you leaning towards believing the story then? You think that maybe
oh
there's
yeah,
a way
when
to go
I,
through the middle of the earth?
I watched a number of videos on that theory, and Admiral Byrd supposedly made reference to it. Of course, he wasn't allowed to talk about it, but his son revealed things. And
Mm-hmm.
so there have been things that have come out over the years that point to many mysteries.
So do you think there's beings that are existing right now under the ice shelf then? Is that what you're
Or
saying?
in the center of the
Not
earth.
only is there a civilization discovered, but there's actually life going on, and that area is an area where you can enter into the earth and travel through it. Is that, have
I suspect so. We do know that now there's a military blockade, or that's a no-fly zone. They don't even allow planes to fly over the poles.
Okay.
So that's I believe very factual and confirmed information.
So all of the nations would be, even though we struggle against each other militarily and financially, there's one place where we all agree is to keep this big secret.
Well, I think a lot of things are kept secret from us on purpose because the knowledge of those secrets, the unveiling of those, would upset the whole system. Uh, Everything that's been built that we call human civilization, it would be like dumping the apple cart over and just scattering the remains all over the
Well,
place.
maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need the truth. Maybe the truth is the way.
I've often said only the truth will set us free. But
Yeah.
we live in a world of great deception, and the deception runs rampant through every part of human culture.
Hmm.
And including the way we were raised to believe that, that there is a loving God, and as you
Mhm.
said, maybe God is indifferent. Uh, that would be, to me, that
Right.
would be very devastating, because if we continue to be brainwashed, we're going to just have another destruction of the planet.
Yeah, I mean, these are fascinating subjects, but I would need some. I can't get over the fact that thousands and thousands of people would keep this hidden, and that I can't get on board with that being anything of the reality. I mean, to me, I immediately go to, okay, the human mind loves conspiracy, mystery. I mean, we just eat it up, and people will embellish, people will fabricate. These ideas sell books really well. There's fame and fortune to be had on some of these kinds of stories, or at least notoriety to be had. And I mean, I think it's just the way of human beings, not knocking humans, but I think human beings love this kind of stuff. They eat it up like candy, and it can be as crazy as you want to make it, like aliens living on the dark side of the moon. I mean, you can get as crazy as you want to get, and there's going to be people that love it. It excites them. It sparks their imagination. It makes them think of a reality different than the one that it is, because the reality's kind of dull. It's kind of like, we don't know what's going on here. I wake up, I drink my coffee, I go to work, I go to bed. That's reality. We want more than that.
Yes, and then people are pushing that it's all an illusion. I mean, I have friends that, all that we experience is an illusion. One of them is my magician friend, Steve Hart, who I just saw again this morning, and he's made some videos with me. And he did some things right this morning in our little talking circle, where he puts a napkin in his hand and he folds it, and he puts a napkin in his other hand, and then he opens the hand that he put the napkin in first, and then he opens the other hand, and the two napkins are both in the other hand, and nobody in the room, sitting right in front of him, saw
Yeah.
him transfer.
Yeah. I love magicians because they get it. They do. They get it a lot of the times. And I think there's that life is an illusion. I think that's actually a very scientific observation, because as physicists get their microscopes and run their mathematical equations down to the very, very smallest particulates of existence, down to the very electrons of atoms, it appears to be an illusion. They really don't exist. There's nothing there.
Wave or particle. You can do tests to determine the wave, or you can do tests to determine the particle, but you can't have them both come up as relevant on the same test.
Yeah, it seems to be, like you're saying, the word like illusion would be probably very adequate. But yeah, I mean, it seems like that life is, in fact, the building blocks of life are, in fact, just waves of probability. There's nothing there. There's nothing solid.
And people say there's no time either, that everything is happening right now. The idea of past or future are actually creations of the mind to try to put the flow together into a coherent meaning.
Well, all light experiences that. we see light traveling, but if you were a photon, you wouldn't travel. Everything is instant. Everything, at the
Now,
speed of light, you don't know you've traveled from the sun to the earth. It's all just is. It just is now. There is no time in from the aspect of a light beam, so that it's very strange. It throws your brain off. It's hard to understand. But yeah, so in physics, there truly is a very sound model that we are experiencing the illusion of time, that everything just is. The future, the past, it's already there, and we're just kind of, it would be like a from the 80s when you bought a cassette tape of your favorite music. It's all there, but you put it in the player and it just rolls the tape,
right?
that would be what life is like.
Of course, they don't even use tapes anymore. I had a whole bunch
No,
of tapes of when
analog.
I made live videos right in the radio studio, and of course, I lost that whole box of all of my tapes when it was stored in the attic, and the attic caught fire.
Well, and they deteriorate as well, so you'd lose them anyways at some point.
Yeah. That's why they've got discs now that are supposed to.
Yeah, like all the big movie companies were working really hard. Like I remember seeing it in the news like 10 years ago. They're working so hard to get all of their old analog film put over to digital before it's gone, like some of the old classic movies and stuff. So they were working real hard to do that, and they finally did it. And I know they were doing it with Beatles music as well.
Right.
At some point, all the people who hold the rights, who hold the originals, are like trying to get everything put over to digital because it's getting old. It gets
well, interestingly, Elvis is still my favorite all-time singer, believe it or not. But in any case, I mean, he's done videos with his daughter, and he's been, of course, dead for a long time, 1977, and he makes these videos with his daughter, and it looks like they're right on the same stage with each other.
I saw that, yeah, with Lisa Marie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something about her struggle. I guess she's financially broke. I think that was a
what?
That was a money ploy. Yeah, she's broke. She has no money.
Well, the Elvis Presley Enterprises, he's made more money since he died than he did when he was alive. So I didn't hear that he was broke.
Yeah, look it up. Yeah, she went completely broke, like no money at all.
Mismanaged her fortune then.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one to look up, you would think. But, a lot of times people sell their royalties. When I'm a musician, a music producer, and I started because I moved in with the guitar player from Heart, the band Heart, which they're a Washington band over here where I'm from. And I moved in to work in the studio. I was a live-in resident working at the studio, and I learned a lot from him because he was famous. He was a rock star from like 71 to about 80 when the band broke up and the girls went on. The girls won the rights to the name Heart, and all the guys got left behind. But they still had that 9 years of fame and fortune. But by the time I came around, it would, many, many years later. And he had sold all of his royalty rights, and he had written that song Barracuda, one of their big, huge hits. That was his brainchild. And so he had a lot of money, but he didn't have money anymore. He had to generate his own income. At this stage of his life, he no longer had those royalties because somewhere down the line, somebody said, I'll give you this much for your royalty rights. And he took the deal. And I guess that happens a lot where people...
I think so, yes.
Yeah, where people sell their rights to their creative art. They'll sell it outright because they're in a bind. They need to pay down their house more. Whatever happens in life, they need that initial lump sum of money, and so they'll sell what they get monthly or weekly to
Well, that's
get that.
interesting because, of course, Trump just in November last year, I believe, honored Elvis with some kind of an award, along with a number of other people.
Hmm.
And Lisa Marie didn't show up. And I thought, why wouldn't she show up as her dad is being honored? Of course, it could have been for political reasons as well. But now you
Yeah,
another
yeah.
possibility.
Who knows? But yeah, it's common. I mean, she admitted it on live on TV that she has no money. She went broke. It's all
Wow,
gone.
I wasn't aware of that. So that's
Yeah, and so
a piece
she's
that I've
trying
missed.
to, yeah, she's trying to recreate a music, she's trying to get into music. She's trying to get to where she can make some money doing entertainment, but she can't get no acting gigs and nobody's listening to her music. So she's in some trouble.
Well, she was able to get her father to come up from the dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we sure got off topic, but
Yeah, well, it's still part of the
it's
mysteries
fun.
of life, so it's
It's
really not
fun.
off topic.
It is. It is the mystery of life. Yeah. Life
There's
is
so
very
many anomalies
mysterious.
that we have to wrestle with
Yes.
mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
Hmm. So, speaking of that, and I kind of like to get into the psychology behind human beings. And for an example, when I was a kid, probably about 10 years old, my grandfather, now, mind you, I didn't live in Seattle growing up. I lived out in the sticks. I mean, the northwest area of Washington, where there's just farms, mountains, and pine trees for miles and miles and miles. That's where I originate from. And my grandfather was a farmer and he toiled the land all of his life. That's what he did. And he used to frequently tell me stories about Bigfoot. And he used to tell me about the smell and that he found the fur on a barbed wire fence. And uh, I I believed him, I really did. But at some point, I questioned if my grandfather was making that up because that's what people do. That's part of being human, is making up
Storytelling.
storytelling. And sometimes we enjoy the story so much, we might even convince ourselves to some degree. And I think that's common. I think that's very common with human beings. In fact, to the degree where I've caught myself doing that very thing. When I was a Christian, I would embellish miracles in my life to tell miracle stories to other people. It wasn't until years after I woke up that I realized that I was caught in that human activity of embellishing stories and almost believing it myself. So not only was I involved in that very activity, but now I question everybody else when I see people that seemingly are telling a story that's unplausible. I'm like, well, this is just what humans do. We all do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what implausible is. I mean, I know it from an intellectual point of view, but I still embrace a lot of the mysteries of life that are not
Absolutely.
explainable in the current paradigm of what we're told is reality.
Yes, but at the same token, in light of that, I 100% agree with you, and I'm fascinated too. But it should be very noticeable to everybody that stories of somebody traveling through the middle of the earth, that this is something humans do. They do tell these stories and they do embellish stories, they do fabricate stories. And a lot of people tell these stories and take them to their grave as if they really happened. Humans do that. I'm not saying the story that you brought up is this situation, but I'm saying this situation does happen. People do this. They make up stories. They really do. And we shouldn't think for a second that all stories are believable. You know, we shouldn't. What I'm saying is we shouldn't lend credibility to all these stories, even when they come from credible people, because we're all human and we're all suspect to doing human things. Part of that is this strong desire to tell stories and to embellish, especially within a certain amount of people. It really happens.
Yeah, well, I know when I first came to Florida and stayed the first night at my uncle's house, and that was in 1982. The very first night, my room lit up about 3 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like God or an angel or something was in the room with me, and was
Mm-hmm.
not with. I couldn't hear it,
Mm-hmm.
but I experienced it, and it was so real. But as I've gone through other things later in my life, I look back and I thought, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Or was
And
that
that's
a mind trick that somehow I conjured up myself?
so there was a scientist in an ongoing research of a psychologist who told people about a story that happened in their life that didn't happen in their life. And the people were like, I don't remember. And then they would go away for a week and they'd come back and suddenly they'd remember the event. So the psychologist had people believing that a story happened in their life that never happened. And when they sat on that for long enough, in their brain remembers it happening like it was actual reality, and they just remembered, and they were thankful that they reminded them of the story. It became real.
Yeah. Well,
This is a
nobody
real
told me
scientific
that story.
study.
I told other people when it happened. My aunt
Right.
first.
And part of that study revealed that the stories that we tell, years later, our mind tricks us to believe that the event really happened, when 20 years ago we might have embellished a little bit. But all of a sudden, 20 years later, the brain forgets that it embellished that, and it actually believes that it happened. So that's part of this. That's part of the research, the science of the human brain. The human brain can trick us. And so I am now questioning a lot of the things from my past after watching that program. Reality is hard to get a hold on, and our brains will trick us. That's why I was saying I like magicians so much, because magicians are very in tune with this idea of how powerful the brain is. And, they find ways to manipulate the brain, how the brain processes information, to make you think you just saw something that you didn't see. Is essentially what it is.
That was right in front of you, and
yes, yeah, your brain. They take advantage of how the brain works, and so real magicians, know these psychological things about the human brain, and they take advantage of it, and they mystify us.
Well, Steve has traveled all over the continental United States and was quite accomplished in his day. He's up in years now. But he still does magic locally. He doesn't. I don't think he travels very much, but
yeah,
it's quite an adventure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I find it funny now. I'm really involved within the Christian community and what they think and what they say, and follow all their posts. And there's a certain amount of Christians now that are saying that magicians, real magicians, like the people you see on stage, and people like your friend who actually travel and entertain people with magic, they are literally saying that these people are doing magic and that they're the devil, that they are demons.
Yeah, well, I've heard those accusations.
You've heard this? Yeah, this is recent. I've seen these recently, and I'm just like, oh, can it get any worse? Can people get any more stupefied?
Well, ironically, my friend Steve is also very much into spirituality, and so he's not. And he actually shows his tricks, but he doesn't tell us how he does them.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think there's a code of the magician. Once you get in where you know how to pull off some of these tricks, I really do think there is a private club of people that know how this works, and they don't want other people to know, because then, the lid's off. They can't do the trick anymore. So I think if you get there, if you get into that group where you're able to do these tricks, then all of a sudden you're in this secret Illuminati kind of group. I think that would be very real and very true.
Yeah. Well, again, there's lots of mysteries, lots of things that we still don't know the answers to, but at least we're on the path of exploration, which is important, I think.
Yeah, I really, on my page and with my audience, I oftentimes talk about delusion and how easily we fall for things. And part of seeking truth is fighting your own delusions. If you're not doing that, if you're not actively fighting yourself, because we're so prone to delusion, you're not a very good truth seeker.
Well, I think on that note, it's already over 31 minutes, so I'm going to pull the plug in a sense. And you have a house full of things going on there that you need to open up so that they can play their music.
I have kids that want to play music, and they play it loud. And though they're in the garage, I think that garage actually amplifies the sound and sends it through the whole house.
Reverberates through the building.
Yes, I think they amplify it, indeed.
Okay. Well, again, Jeff, I thank you, and do send. Is this the same link to that video that you recreated?
If you just go to Stairway to Reason on Facebook, I'm not a YouTuber. It should be right up there at the top of the thread. I think I pinned it to the top of the page. It's called My Letter to God.
Okay.
And it's a recreation.
Just overwrote the other one. You just.
It's the same.
Same title, but a new video.
I just recreated it. Yeah, okay. I just took the old video, buffed it out, made it prettier, made it sound better. Got rid of I used to turn up the speed on the video because I wanted to shorten my videos, because I felt like nobody wanted to watch long videos. I had so much to say that I tried to cram it. And so I sped up my voice, and I realized that that's not really the way to do it. Just say what you got to say. Let the clock run, and so it's just so much better now in every way.
Okay. Well, once again, I thank you very much, and I will send you once it goes live tomorrow. I will send you the address on the web so you can look it up and watch it yourself.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
All right, stay strong and wise, my friend.
Okay, bye for now.